Hey.
Yeah, how everybody doing today?
Look at Farmer Lee today with his coveralls on.
Yeah, it's my L4 coverall for work. I've been lazy this evening, ain't even taken them off yet. I come in, done a few things around the house, and walked straight in the office.
Put up a video.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't think it was too bad for a first premiere.
Throw the link in. Yeah, the premieres, I like them because you can interact with people in the room that are watching it, so it's pretty helpful. I like it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start trying to do some more of them.
Just myself in my seat, make me look a little bit taller. Almost up to where Lee is in this chair.
You are a little taller than me. You said you what, 6'2", 6'3"?
Yep. Like 6'2.5" right in there.
I'm 6 foot even. I would be about 6'3" if it wasn't for my back, but it's kind of curved. So
yeah, I got a bad back too. So we both dropped videos today. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Mine was kind of clickbaity. I know it's clickbaity.
You got to have a lot of fun with it every now and then, as long as it ain't complete. You did stop the experiment.
Yeah, I had to stop it, really. I always get comments on there where people just watch the one video, right? They don't realize it's been a kind of a playlist. There's like 6 videos in the playlist, and they watch the one and they say, well, you can mainly attribute that to the time of the year. Well, yep, you could say that if it wasn't 78 degrees on New Year's Eve here, so it's a little bit different here than in a lot of other climates, right? I mean, you can say that there too. So it's kind of a very regional. We have overwhelming hive beetles here. As I saw in your video, you had beetle larvae in your colony today. So
yeah, that's the one that I didn't. It was a little bit weaker split too, but I didn't put no peppermint in that one also.
Hey, Ricky. Hey, Don.
Hey there, Ricky.
Texas, man. We got a little showing today. That's pretty good.
Yeah, got a couple of them in here for a Thursday night.
Well, it's just kind of the peppermint. If you go back to my January videos, what kind of stimulated before I even knew about the peppermint and, Earl talking about it on his channel, every video I did, I'd pop a frame up and you'd see 4 or 5 hive beetles and I'm sitting there smashing them. Hey, James, I'm sitting there smashing them and, trying to alleviate them that way. Now, I did make some other steps too, guys, not just the peppermint. I will say that in the off season, I did put down weed barrier, right? And wood chips and some diatomaceous earth under the colony to help break the cycle. So it wasn't it's not necessarily 100% peppermint, but what I can say is I went through originally before we started the peppermint experiment video, is I did put peppermints in all of my colonies before I ever started that. And, people are like, well, you need to have a control group and this. Yeah, I understand. So the control group was if I saw hive beetles in there, they got peppermint. And if I didn't see hive beetles, they just got regular patty. And the ones that I didn't see the beetles in with the regular patty in there, they were only able to consume about 25% of the patty before I saw where there was hive beetle larva in there, as compared to the one that I put the peppermint patty on, was able to get a good probably 90% of the patty gone. So, I mean, it's definitely, for me, it's a win. If I go into 15 colonies and I only see 3 beetles, that's a win.
Like we were saying before, even if it don't completely eliminate, as long as it reduces the population, it helps. If it can reduce it enough that the bees can manage the last little bit that may be there along doing their honey or nectar collecting and brood rear and everything else, it's going to help. Nah. I mean, like I said, looked at the video. She looks like she's mated. I mean, she's pretty large.
Yeah, she is pretty
large. There was no eggs yet. But I'm going to check it maybe Saturday or Sunday and see if she starts laying or not.
Well, that was my thing yesterday when we were going through those colonies. The mated queens that I put in there that I saw, I didn't see any eggs, but it was overcast and it was like pretty dark comb in there, and I didn't have a flashlight to look down in there, so don't know. I'll wait a few more days to a sunny day and then check them again and see what's going on.
Which, I mean, I only made that split, a week and a half ago. And, I mean, it was already capped, so it's going to take a couple more days after that for it to hatch out. Then 3 to 5, 6 days for her to harden and then go out. Hey, we got somebody down in the waiting room. Bring him on in. But it's going to take her a couple of days to harden and then fly out and mate, and then a couple of days before she'll actually start laying. So I'm hoping within maybe the next week I'll start seeing some eggs.
Well, good evening, Charlie.
Hey, what's happening?
Not much. Just, living life, selling honey. I got my new signs in today. Lee said, just check Amazon. I'm sure they got something. So I put one of these. Well, you won't be able to see it probably. Let me see. Is there any way to get it to show with? I can always take the background. Hold on. Oh, well, you might be able to see it.
Yeah, a little bit.
It only shows when you don't want it to.
Doggone it. Hold on. Virtual background, none. Y'all get to see my dirty room here. All right, so.
Looks good to me.
So you get a pair of them for like $24, and it comes with the stand. So I put one out in the yard, and people were pulling in my driveway today and just honking the horn, and then I'd run down to the road to sell them some honey.
I told you the minute you got coming by there, you're gonna have to put a drive-through window in that new honey house.
I know, right?
Just put one of those little wireless doorbells on it, pull up and ring the bell.
Yeah, I sold. I guess it was 10 pounds yesterday. One guy bought 3 3-pound bottles. I was like, really?
Nice.
So, yeah, I did pretty good. That's what I just got done is replacing my supplies on the honey and then filling up my bottling bucket.
I sold my first little jar today.
Good.
So,
hey Charlie, you got a bottling bucket or an unbottling bucket?
He's got an unbottling bucket. Oh, look who we got. We gave him a bunch of crap the other day, and now he's here.
You guys can't make this crap up. I wasn't joking, by the way.
Oh, look who we got. We gave him a bunch of crap the other day, and now he's here. Hold on, we got a loop.
He hit my crap up.
He's got to mute himself.
Look who we got. We gave him a bunch of crap. Still. All right, yeah, there it goes. Now it's muted.
He's got to mute himself.
Oh, no, I'm still hearing a loop.
Yeah, he doesn't have the other part.
Hey, Mike, if you got us up on YouTube, you might have to mute your.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he got us up on the big screen too.
Look at that, man. That's a nice looking building. I like that.
That's my cabin.
Now we can hear you good.
See if I can get this thing pointed right.
You know, we were just poking fun at you the other night, right?
Oh, I know you were, but I mean, I had it coming. What the hell's going on with this camera? Yeah, I mean, I literally had no idea what it was. I was on a Zoom call with a couple data analysts months ago, and the camera went behind my entire console here. And yeah, it just disappeared. So anyway, it's nice to meet you all.
It's nice to meet you.
You still getting some cold weather up there?
Yeah, we've got about an inch of snow right now.
Ooh.
Where are you at?
I'm in, best to explain it, I'm north of the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's east central Minnesota. It's kind of at west of the headwaters. Think, oh yeah, knock it off.
I am a Vikings fan from way back, though. For
Are
real.
you really?
Yo, yeah. Since
Let's see if I
Target.
can screw with this camera a little bit here. See if I can do something a little different with it. So I'm looking up. I don't know. Let's see what happens. So yeah, that's a little better. You can see a couple of my mousers behind me there as the thing tries to figure out where it is. So
Get the auto adjust.
yeah. So what have you guys been up to tonight?
Well, watching a lot of beekeeping videos. I watched Cayman's live, and then I watched Lee's premiere, and then we decided we're going to go live for a little while. You know, since Lee's off tomorrow.
I'm off on my regular job tomorrow. I got bee work to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Lee, you don't get much time off, do you?
Right now I finally am. I'm back on 410s, but I was working 712s.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even my day off tomorrow, I'll be bringing blocks and 4x4s to the new yard finally to get everything set up.
Were you finally able to get the blocks?
Yeah. I found 2 here, and the guy where I'm setting up, he has a whole pile he was getting ready to throw away too. I said, well, I only need 2. So that's enough to get me set in.
I've actually got this building out back that you guys probably see that's kind of fallen down in the back. It's all cinder block.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
If I need cinder blocks, I just go and grab them out of there where they fell down. Infinite supply back there.
Yeah, that thing looked like a chicken coop or something.
I think at one time back in the 50s or 60s, it was probably a root cellar. Or, it had that old plastic, like, I don't know, like corrugated, the wavy rooftop type material on it, all around it. And just over years, it's, trees have fallen on it and all kinds of craziness. But now it's just, when it rains real hard, it holds water like a swimming pool.
Is it possible at all it was an old smokehouse?
It might have been. It was the hold on one second, guys.
Go ahead.
Mute myself.
So what you been up to there, Charlie?
Oh, not much. It's been raining all day up here in Maryland. Been pouring down, and this evening is even a little bit more worse.
No.
And
We ain't had nothing but sunshine today, but we've been getting 25-mile-an-hour winds for some reason, and we don't have no storm around.
Yeah. Didn't they say that you guys had? I watched the news this morning, and you guys were getting tornadoes or whatever around there.
Who's that? Me?
Yeah, you down in that area? Your area?
I think we did about a week ago. We got some down here, but nowhere near me. It was like 25, 30 miles away.
Right.
It tore up.
But now it's just raining here today, and no real deal.
We got Yappy in the chat. Hey, Yappy. We had, funny. I went down to Kudix, right? And where they're located, they had tornadoes going through that area. So hopefully everything's all right with them. I didn't call down there after the storm to see if they were all right or not. So hopefully everybody's bees are still on time getting to them this year.
They're coming up here next week. I got queens and nukes coming to my friend's house. They said they were like a week or so ahead of schedule.
No, that's good.
So,
Yeah, I mean, when I went down there, they pretty much told me queens right now, I could get as many queens as I want, because for some reason this year, not as many queens were ordered. And, but, that doesn't give me a discount. It just gives me I can get as many as I want. So,
whereabouts is that, Bob?
I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, and they're located in Manning, South Carolina, about
Well,
an
you guys
hour.
have good warm mating weather going on there.
Yeah, we do. Well, I mean, it's kind of cool right now. It's 56, but the bees are usually flying here at like 53 degrees. So that's one thing, even with that peppermint experiment where people are asking about it and how it's kind of off cycle for a lot of areas in the country for hive beetles, but we still have been getting in the 60s and 70s pretty much, every so often all season. And even in the winter, New Year's Eve, it was 78 degrees. So I don't think our hive beetles get a brood break too much down here. If you want to call it that, they just pretty much persist. I saw one of Swarmstead's Swarmstead. Bruce, he opened a hive up in Pennsylvania, and he had hive beetles that were kind of in a torpor a little bit on the inside of the cover. And
Really?
I mean, they had cold bees that were around them, around them, but they were still there and alive. And, we get a little bit of snow here every decade. We'll get maybe an inch. And
That's
then
how we are.
by the afternoon, it's gone usually that day,
Yeah,
So-
the ground don't get cold enough here for it to stick. It just melts as soon as it hits. So,
Yeah, I wish I could take the camera and point out the window here. Our lake has still got it. The ice has started to pull about 6 to 8 feet away from the shoreline, but that happens on occasion. We'll have the late spring. Charlie, whereabouts are you in relationship to Baltimore?
yeah, I'm kind of northeast of Baltimore.
Oh, okay. So I've never been in that section before there. So I have family that lives in Gaithersburg.
Okay, yeah, it's down around the DC area. I'm about probably in at least an hour from there. My county borders the Susquehanna River coming down out of Pennsylvania.
And something I've been dying to ask you. You've got those, what are those, 2 or 3 frame mating nukes behind you in your picture?
Yeah, they're 2-frame mating boxes I made.
How the heck do you keep those things from tipping over in high winds?
I don't really have any wind problems per se.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, they're only, they're well, let's see.
looks like the logs give you a pretty good wind break.
Yeah, logs in behind me there, and then like the purple one there, it's a deep. These others are mediums. I run a lot of medium. My honey hives are all medium based.
Okay.
Through and through, and then here in the last couple of years, I started 10, 11 years ago, and the women were really heavily getting into bees, and they wanted medium boxes. So I figured that the market would be, a lot of medium nukes that I would sell. And when I first started out, when you lift that darn deep box full of honey frames,
Oh yeah.
it's like, what the world is this? It's like 100 and some pounds. And I'm like, and I got lower back issues over the years that I got to be very guarding about. So,
but if you were selling deep's worth of honey every year, you'd have a lower pocket issue with all that cash you were carrying around.
yeah.
Oh goodness me.
That's me.
Well, anyway, I made them 2-framers, and I use it. They work out pretty good. I'm not sure whether I would go 2-frame again or maybe a 3-frame, but the 2 frames do work fine. The only thing different is as you can see the entrances there, I do have a block that I can actually. It's got a screw in it where you can actually put it down like a door.
Oh, you turn it. Okay.
You can lock them up.
Yeah.
That little doorway is only probably maybe a 1/2 inch by 3/8 tall, and all. And
What's your success as far as return rate mated queens?
Um, it's probably 80%, I would think.
Well, that's not bad.
You know,
I first saw those 2-frame nukes on Barnyard Bees as well.
that's where I got the idea from. I said, well, you know, it's like he was saying, and I've talked to other folks. You know, a lot of these people buy those mini mating boxes, you know, where you actually put a couple bees in there, and they get them little teeny frames, and it's, you know, it's specialized. You know, it's, you got to have little teeny frames for that, and then, you know, and then you got to be out there on top of it. If you're still doing a day job and you can't get out there right on the money, they're going to swarm. That queen's going to swarm out from that little teeny hive.
You got to do this the timing dance. Hey, Cajun, how you doing down there? See you.
Yeah, to me, they would swarm out a lot faster than those mini mating nukes.
They do.
But I prefer a bigger frame. That way you can see an actual pattern, how good their laying pattern is going to be.
The
good point.
Uniform, you know, uniformity is what I'm looking at. If I have these are, you know, normal. It's just like a normal box, only 2 frames wide, and I can put a regular frame in there. Or let's say she's on there and laying a great looking pattern, and I want to make a nuke, or let's say requeen a nuke. All I got to do is drop that whole frame and her in there. I don't have to, you know, make anything special. You know, it's all universal. It works all together.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I haven't used those, but down here, because of our climate and it being so warm, that you can literally just drop 1 frame of bees in there and a blank like David does. And if it's the right time of year, they'll do the thing. You know, they'll mate a queen and come back and good to go. So that was kind of my philosophy. I'm still looking at getting some of those, or a queen castle. I went to my mentors and we cut some boxes, but I haven't gotten the extra stuff to put them together yet. So they're still sitting out there.
Now there's one thing about that is the queen castles. Everybody uses the queen castles. And I had a guy in our club that he had a, what do you call it? Observation hive in the house. Well, anyway, the queen let off a bunch of piping, and there was multiple cells in there, and then the whole colony went bananas, and those worker bees tore down all them other cells, and except for the one who was piping. And then there was another guy here, Joe, that used to be in my club. He's out in Texas now. He said, now that makes sense. He says, I used to have queen boxes, and I would get one successful, and the other 2 were gone or dead or whatever. And he says, makes sense. If one of them was piping and the other colonies, you know, which were 2 framers or 3 framers, heard that, they would hear that signal of tearing down them other queen cells.
No kidding.
That's what he theorized.
So have you guys seen, by the way, hey, Dry Cut there. Yeah, the time restriction as far as trying to raise those things in those minis. I don't know if you guys caught Michael Palmer. I think I can't remember who he was last talking to, if it was Frederick Dunn or whatnot, but he's switched over from the 4-way super mini, you know, queen mating thingies, and he put them in. Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, thank you. And the problem that he was running into was mated queen drift. So they were moving right over, and you know, and what he did was he reduced them to 3 frames or 3 sections, and then has the entrances on all different sides, and then he painted them. It's like, and Charlie, I really appreciate your color differences there, but he painted distinctly different colors. I've taken that as kind of a step sideways, and I've followed Bob Binney's.
I got, let's see, what else do I got? Yellow, purple, green.
Oh yeah, you've got a menagerie. I love it. It looks really good too.
I got them colors off of what is it called? Nuke's Essentials or something like that from Dr. What's his name's book press or whatever it's called, Wisp Press. Anyway, I like the colors and stuff like that, so that's how I got it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Now, I'm taking a kind of a sideways notion. I'm not doing the colors, but I'm doing a distinct pattern on every super, the 10 frames. Mm-hmm. And the thought there being that if I have these superseding, returning queen is more likely to find that particular box. But I thought it was really interesting to see Palmer go into the 3-frame section, because then, like Lee, you're talking about, you want to see the big pattern. Well, he's using deep frames.
Yeah.
And I've got a friend on the other side of the lake here who's doing the same thing. He just uses the 3 frames, and what kind of pattern you're getting into. And if you need to pull out and go from there, it gives you a little room. Dry Cod's talking about it. So you get a little bit more of a time differential there. But we'll see what happens. And all the boxes are insulated too, which is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
So,
well, this will be my first year trying to even make queens. I mean, it's only my 3rd year with bees. But the way I look at it, I'm not going to learn how to do it unless I start doing it. I may fail, but I'll learn what not to do.
Go ahead, Lee.
No, I was just saying, if I do fail, I'll learn what not to do next time.
Well, the biggest thing like up around here, or at least that's over the years I've been here, and I've only been queen rearing for 3 years, is that you got all these, I don't know, naysayers or whatever you want to call them.
There's always some, yeah.
Where, you can't do it because you got to have good eyesight, or there was always something, and everything's about the grafting part of it. And I wear glasses. I take these glasses that I have on right now. I put a magnification unit on over top of them, and I get myself a little $4 LED light out of the drugstore.
I was going to ask about the lighting.
Yeah, just one of them LED, flashlights that are about 3 or 4 inches long, just like what he's got right there. You shine that thing down in there, and I use a Chinese grafting tool. Now, I was trained by Kent Williams out of Kentucky. He was at the Queen or Honey show, they call it Honey Convention, back in 2019. And about 5 minutes later, I'm grafting. It's maybe not the right aged larvae or the right size larvae, but the concept was already, it was like, this is all there is to it? Yeah. You just got to get, the right aged larvae. And you guys watched Caymanite, and what's the name? Peck had that cage that he was showing off there. Well, that right there that's a timing box right there.
Yeah.
You put that frame in there, you put the queen in there, you do it at let's say 1 o'clock every day. You put that queen in there, you come back the next day at 1 o'clock. You pull that frame off, take her off, put her on a new fresh frame, on a fresh frame, put her back into that cage, take that frame and put it just on the outside of the cage. All right, so that frame is 1 day old. So you keep doing that process for the next 4 days, and you keep stepping that frame back. You have some type of a pattern, where that frame goes. I mean, like if it's on a 10-frame box, you hit it, it's here, then it's there, and then it's here, and then it's the 4th day. The 4th day, that's the day exactly by the hour it's ready to graft.
So how old are they when you're grafting them from laying
to? Queen, if you can get it within the first 12 hours after hatching.
That's what I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the perfect thing. But I mean, it takes 3. I don't know. Some people say between 3.5 days before the larvae actually hatches or the egg hatches into a larvae.
Yeah.
Well, does the with that and the way the frame's set up, would it be like a Nicot where you put them in that Nicot box and then they don't necessarily lay right away? I mean,
I've heard that has happened. Some people who use that Nicot system. I had it. I never used it. And, she might not lay up everything at one time. They talk about polishing cells and polishing the JZBZ cups and all that. And
That's what I heard. With the Nicot, they said don't put the queen in there for like the first 2 to 3 days. Just put that frame box down in there and let the worker bees go through, polish all the cells, do what they need to do, and then put the queen in.
Yeah,
I've got one somewhere, but I don't know where it's at right now.
So Charlie, what do you do for a building box? Do you use a builder?
Do I build the box in behind me?
No, for your queen rearing, the builder box to.
Oh, the cell builder.
Cell builder. Sorry.
Yeah, I use a nuke. I use a 5-frame nuke.
You just shake a bunch of bees in it and let the.
Now I go in and I try to. The last 3 years I did the Clemens method, which is a nuke that is queenless, and all you do is add cap brood to it on a weekly basis, because the cap brood emits pheromones, and those bees, the worker bees, think that there is a queen in there. They will not start laying worker. You can do that all summer long as you keep giving them fresh brood.
Okay.
And all that. Now, one thing I did learn is what I do, and that's another thing. I try to make it a little more simpler and easier to understand, or at least for me to think about it, is that like if you don't have a timing box, which usually that's what all your commercial guys do, because they're grafting every day. They're once they get that rotation going, they're grafting on a daily basis, 7 days a week, constantly, until queen rearing season is over with. And I go in there and I tell people, the best way to understand it, you go in there and you find a nice frame of eggs. So you look at the eggs, then below that should be your day-old larvae, I guess you would call it. If you can see dots of jelly, but you can't see anything floating in the jelly, that's the ones that you want to graft, because when you put your magnification unit on, then you'll be able to see them. Right?
Wow.
Either like that. I have one that's actually like a jeweler's helmet type thing, but you can put.
Thanks for bringing that up. Oh, you got that going there too, Lee. Okay, that's excellent.
Amazon.
Yeah, I got a jeweler's helmet, and it's got that little teeny LED light, and it sort of helps. The one in your hand's the one you're going to go with.
You can get better angles with one in your hand.
Yeah.
Well,
and then I use the Chinese grafting tool, and then like I was telling you guys one other time, tell Mike here, you bring that Chinese, you got your thumb out there, your thumbnail. You bring that Chinese grafting tool down, and that tongue, when you hit your thumbnail on that tongue, that thing should bend nice and easy. And if it doesn't, then you need to take a piece of like 200 grit sandpaper or whatever you can find, the highest grit level, and sand that thing, kind of sand it down to where it's flexible. And then when you're grafting, stick it in your mouth and let it warm it up and the saliva and make it flexible. Kind of maybe try to bend it with your tongue in that curvature. And so you just you slide that tongue down the side wall, and it'll go down and hit the, and that's another thing is, that one there is okay. I don't particularly care for that model. I like the one that has more of a ink pen clicker to it. It's got like a plastic plunger, and slide it down. It'll bend, go underneath the, it'll pick up the royal jelly. And of course, the larvae actually is on top of the royal jelly, so you don't really touch the larvae. Those are the better. That's the kind that I like.
So, what was the mechanical one that they had? It's
at Hive Life.
Yeah,
that's that $75 one or $100 one, whatever it is. It's what those. It's like those German grafting tools, and that other one. They use a piece of steel. And from what I can see of it, you're actually you're kind of like hooking the larvae with that. And then you set it back down with it. Whereas,
I was trying to look at the tongue of those things, so I was trying to figure it out. But I'm
yeah,
buying
you're actually kind of hooking lower. I mean, I guess if you do it on a daily basis, I mean, I watch these guys down here at Hardeman's, and I mean, bam, 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 and they're going across. They'll do a cup every 3 seconds, and they're just booking across there, and they got a piece of copper wire that they mound out to kind of make like a little spoon on it, and that's what they use, and that's what they're used to. But they look at how many, they do a couple thousand a day every day, 7 days a week. While they're grafting, that's how many thing they're doing. But that tool, Kenton Williams, he talked about all that. He said, "Oh, I figured, well, that's going to, the more expensive the tool, the better off." There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more expensive the tool, I'll be better with it and I'll do better and all that. And he says, I wound up buying, you buy 100 Chinese grafting tools for $12 or whatever off Amazon.
Yeah.
And then he says, I just work just as good as that, for what we're doing. I'll graft 20 some cells every grafting period.
Right.
In
all fairness, though, it's not for me. It's for my friend that actually grafts them, and that I'm getting as good queens. So I'm very happy to buy him a tool.
Yeah.
But that's a funny thing. So the supers that we're building now, they're all going to be datoed. So you can either put make them into a double base nuke or a 3-chamber mating box. Every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And you just gave me an idea here, Charlie. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some type of data in there to put a queen excluder in specifically and turn that.
Yeah, well, that's what they do down at Hardeman's down there. They got a 10-frame box there. They got a 10-frame box, and they got 2 queen excluders, and they put a dado slit on either side. And they got a little bit of room for that. It's not a tight fit; it's a little bit of open fit there. They slide them 2 queen excluders down through there on those dado cuts. You put your frame in the middle, and that's where the queen goes, so she can lay that empty frame up. And then they make sure that those queen excluders come all the way up to the top, and they usually put like a feed bag, or not so much of a feed bag. Kind of a canvas, that real soft cloth type that she can't cross over. And they use a migratory cover with that, and they step that frame back on a daily basis,
and then just walk it through.
And then walk it through. It's like, I don't know. It's like day 1's in the middle, and it's day 2, day 3, and then they go all the way over to here is day 4, and that's the day that they pull. On the 4th day. And something else I watched them do, they get done grafting and they want to clean that frame out, they go over there to the spigot hydrant, outdoor hydrant, like for watering cows or whatever. They take up there, they actually wash all the eggs and larvae out of that frame, make it clean. Yeah, I didn't think, and they shake it out, shake the water out, let it dry.
Yeah.
And then they don't want to make sure that there's no eggs in there for the next go round.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I see you're going to bring Jason in here. I got 2 things here real quick for you. Have any of you ever seen Richard Knowles talk? It's about an hour long. It's about queen rear, and it's called All About the Jelly.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. See, I thought you might there, Charlie. I really suggest Lee and Bob check that one out. And there's one other little side here. Michael Palmer, when he goes to put some of the, he'll actually take pollen from pollen traps that he's had the year before, and he smears it into empty cells to make sure that they have lots of protein in there.
All right, here's I got this from another club that I belong to.
Yeah.
And the fella said, he said, I drizzle pollen sub on top of the frames. I'm like, what are you talking about?
And they don't kick it out.
And so what he does is he takes pollen powder, some honey or sugar water, mix it up with a little hand mixer, they used to mash potatoes with, to where it's like a thick pancake batter. And then pour, and then you got your grafting frame in there, and then of course a pollen frame and a nectar frame on the other side, because you don't want honey, you want nectar over here, and you want a pollen frame. And then we drizzle across the top of those frames on that whole 5-frame nuke, and it it doesn't go over the edge. It just stays there.
And here's the bit.
And I've done that for the last couple of years, and then bees will come up there, and they're like a bunch of little pigs lined up across there, just sucking it down, and all that, and it does. So the main thing is you want, from what I understand, you want them to fill that JZBZ cup with jelly, like within the 24 or 48, within 2 days.
Get them floating in there, yeah.
It should be full. And I picked them up. You have to very gently pick that thing up, and that cup's a quarter inch, 3/8 tall, and it's at least a quarter inch of jelly in there. And then after I bring them, this Clements method, you keep that cell in there for 6 days, and on the 6th day, that's counting the day you graft. That's day 1. I don't worry about the eggs and all that stuff.
Yeah, they'll fill that right up, Lee. It's really funny to watch. And by the way, that was Richard Knowles. That's the title, All About the Jelly. And he's talking about the importance of the jelly being in the cup there.
Yeah, well, what I was getting at is once I had one hatch in my incubator. Yeah. And I said, okay, huh?
Really?
Well, yeah, it
okay, yeah, it'll happen.
He got away from me. I'll put it to you that way. It came out a little too soon, and my egg calculations were a little off. So anyway, here, and I got her, I caged her, no problem. And now I said, okay, I want to look at this. And I was always listening to what he was saying. Palmer always said, you want more jelly than they can eat by the time they hatch. You want some leftover. So I went in there and I tore that cell off of that JZBZ cup, and right in the middle there's kind of like a divot about the size of a eraser head on a lead pencil, and there was just a little bit of jelly right there still left in there.
But it was still in there.
So she didn't eat that. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of got what I got that right as far as the amount and having more jelly than what they need.
So I'm
going to go ahead and bring Jason in here so he can join in on the conversation.
Charlie, I was just going to ask about your sawmill.
Hey.
Because we were just running a bunch of Wood-Mizer 13-foot blades, and I'm just wondering what you used.
We got a big circle mill.
Okay.
We got a big commercial circle mill. Wonderful. And then we do have a Wood-Mizer LT15 and one of them little light jobs.
Yeah.
We've had it for years and years.
I thought you might get like a big circular, but I had to ask. Jason,
go to thomassawmill.com.
I will.
So,
Jason, you got your YouTube page open too?
I hope so.
Now turn the volume off. You're backfeeding.
What?
Turn your YouTube volume off.
Yeah, if you got the YouTube window open, you'll also
backfeed
into it.
Yeah, just close your YouTube window and leave this one open.
The volume?
Yeah, just
I don't hear it anymore.
Do you have it?
Yeah, it's a common occurrence when people come in.
Yeah, I had no idea. I would have been sitting here arguing.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah, hey, Brian.
You got it, Jason?
Oh, is he
I don't know.
frozen?
He's froze.
Yeah,
I can't tell if he's froze or is that just like a thumbnail.
I think he's lagging really good because there isn't much detail to the camera, but that's just my observation there. Okay, well, nice ceiling fan. Good smile.
Yeah. He'll be back in a minute, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. It is always a little technical difficulty every time somebody coming in new.
Yeah.
Just like the other night, whenever Mr. Ed come in, he had called me on the phone because the link it wasn't working, so we had to redo the link before he could actually come in.
Yeah. Well,
That
you guys
was-
did a good job handling that. That was pretty good.
It was controlled chaos.
Yeah, pretty much everything we do is kind of on the fly.
Well, you know,
But
you
that's
guys,
what makes it fun.
yeah, you guys have been watching this. We don't come into these with any kind of plan at all. So we did have somewhat of a little plan. We knew Mr. Ed was coming, and I knew Randy and Mr. Ed were friends, the Dirt Rooster. So I had sent Dirt Rooster the link on Facebook, and he had earlier in the day, and he said, well, he would join if he could.
Yeah.
So we really didn't have confirmation he was going to show up. So about 49 minutes.
There we go. That's one of Brian's.
Yeah,
that's one of Brian's. So
I
about
see Brian down there in the chat, so I had to show him to come in today.
Oh, that's neat.
So about 49 minutes in, I said, well, it doesn't look like Randy's going to be able to join us today. We're going to open this up. And then we started, I don't know, real quick, Mr. Ed started talking about something else. And then all of a sudden, Randy showed up in there. And then Castle said, well, Yappy wants to join because he had him on the phone. And then, I mean, it just real quick. So we ended up having to change things on the fly and didn't get, people in like we had originally intended. But it ended up being fun and we had a good time. So actually, I had to kick Randy and Yappy out because Lee had to go to work the next morning. They were closing down the show. They stayed till the end.
I wish I wouldn't have had to work. We'd stayed all night.
Oh man, I love it. So I'm gonna throw something at you guys here that I
wish I wouldn't have had to work. We'd stayed all night.
Okay, I just shut that down there. So Ian Stepler was talking about some of the beekeepers up there in Manitoba with 60 to 80% losses, and I got to thinking about that, and I heard Mike Palmer on Fred Dunn's interview, and Fred was talking about the commercial beekeepers in Pennsylvania dealing with similar losses. And I put a question to both of them. And this other guy, Phil, the bee man, he's kind of footloose, but I said, are you getting any reports as far as what the similarity is with these people? Were they all running Apivar or, for mite treatment? Because normally the losses are going to be, because of your mite treatments. So I haven't heard anything back from that. And I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was just really interesting. So I'm very curious to find out what those guys are going to be coming up with, or what. I'm sure Ian will get back to us about it one way or another. But that's huge. And I know in Pennsylvania they were looking at those losses like 2 years in a row, and some of these guys are just looking at throwing the towel in. In fact, I think Ian might have said that too. But I don't know if you guys hear anything about that. Throw it up and. One of your videos or something. I'll try and pay attention to Dunn and Ian Stepler and see what comes up. But there's got to be some similarities. That's something that's going on. That something's not working. Because if these guys are commercial beekeepers and you're getting those losses that big, there's something amiss there. So.
Well, one thing that I haven't seen, and it could just be my not knowing, my ignorance. So I'm not saying anything's wrong, but my question would be, what is normal without mites? What's a normal colony loss percentage? Let's say everything was perfect and there was no mites.
Yeah, I can give you an answer on that. So like Jeff, Mr. Ed, he doesn't treat anything for mites at all. His is about 30%. I got a hold of Bill Binney, and he says that'll move from. Yeah, that's right. Ian also did have some starvation on it, but that's a separate thing. Bob Binney was saying somewhere between 5 and 15%. Now he's also abandoned Apivar with a bunch of other commercial guys. So was using oxalic acid in the fall and the spring or whatever. Brewless winters, and then he was messing around with a thymol, which is, you got to be careful in the heat with that stuff. It's like formic. You got to be temperature sensitive with that. The one thing that might be happening, and I haven't got any feedback on this at all, is that how many of these guys are running corn syrup, basically. I don't know if you guys know about the big lawsuit that took place up in Canada when they were selling the beekeepers this crappy corn syrup and telling us something else. The pH changes on it after a period of time, and the bees can't handle it quite as well. And not only that, if they're not getting straight sucrose syrup, you're not getting the hydrogen peroxide in your honey, for their winter feed. And it's better than regular honey, the peroxide percentage. So that's why we want to feed the bees, at least up here, definitely we want to feed them, just load them up with the sugar syrup and get that peroxide up, and that helps them deal with, diseases and everything else. That's all I know. I just wanted to throw it to you guys, and that's just my observations on it, and I'm waiting to hear back from these guys.
Well,
I'd
I treated
like to
with
look into that
OA
a
all
little more.
year. I ended up with 20% loss. I went from 15 to 12, which is like 20%.
Well, Bob, you've been doing this for what, 2 or 3 years?
This is my third year. Yep.
That's pretty good. Give yourself a kudos on there, because part of that could be like bad queens too. They're just not laying the winter queens up. So that's not bad.
It's probably my walk-away queens from last year. Queens I raised. That's why.
Did you walk away from your walk-away queens?
Yeah, I started the season last year with only 4 nukes, overwintered nukes. And you guys see my yard that it was all pretty much doubles and triples going into coming
Fun
out.
to watch.
So now I've split back, listening to Charlie and Lee, I've split them back to singles pretty much. If there's any box on there over a single, it's a super. So we're going to try to give it a go. I've got a couple colonies that still that mean colony that I just don't like dealing with. So,
kill that queen and scrape all the drone. Don't screw with it. You don't want their genetics in your yard. Life is too short. I got Kim Floatin just read somebody of the Riot Act. I remember about that. I got a hot hive, and his one question was, how often do you like getting stung? So that's just my feedback. I had a hot hive here. I had my doggone beehives on the back deck of my cabin up until the year that I got a hot queen in there. And that was the end of that. That queen, I took her out and pinched her ass off and got rid of the drones, and that solved that issue. But that's just my feedback.
well, she's a camouflage artist or something. I think she wears a ghillie suit when she's running through there, because I can never find her. But I always see evidence that she's in there. I always see eggs and brood and larvae. So I'm like, she's still laying.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do the shaker box with the queen excluder on the bottom.
Yeah. Now, every now and then, I do like a sting whenever that arthritis starts acting up.
Lee, same here. I got a little bit in my neck. Literally, after getting stung within an hour, it's gone.
Yep.
So
That's me if my hands start cramping, my fingers are locked, like my joints lock up.
Amen.
I take 1 or 2 stings, and my hands are good for a week or 2.
So you're saying I just need to have people over and start doing apitherapy with that colony.
I got a
Then
buddy
I can
that
buy
lives.
a new queen with what I'm charging them in their copays.
I got a buddy that lives a couple of doors down, and his aunt used to buy bees from another beekeeper, and she'd get them in the little cage, and she'd take them and sting herself on her joints that were sore. And that guy don't do it no more, so he gave her my number, and I'm supposed to start with her now.
God bless. I mean, really, because some people that really helps them, and it does me. It does you. You've seen Bob Binney with his. There you go. You've seen Bob Binney with his SARS. What the heck was that?
The shingles.
Shingles. Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, that was a pretty amazing thing. And
I had shingles one time, and I didn't even know what it was, and they told me, "Oh, it's the chickenpox virus." So if you've had chickenpox, and you get the chickenpox again, it comes back as shingles.
Yeah, and I got a question here for Direct Cut Homestead. He treated with Apigard, and he lost 3 queens in the springtime. What was the temperature at that point in time?
Good question.
Because I'm considering I seen Bob Binney's video of that. I like that looking. I mean, it gives me another option. I do Aprivar, but not. This is Apriguard, which is the thymol, which is a gel.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
I
little,
think it
like,
was into
looks
that.
like
Bob
almost
was-
like a
You can
birthday
either
apple.
use the tins, or I'm going to buy the multi-dose thing.
Yeah, he buys it by the bucket.
I'm going
Bob
to get a bucket for me. That way, I can actually, you want to be around the 80. I know they say 90, but I would say more like 80. And
I think they want it cooler than that. I can't remember though. I really can't. So I think once you get into the 80s, I think you're pushing it. And the thing about running it with that temperature, I know that something that Bob was really hammering home. He's like, no, don't read the instructions. He said we were doing a half a dose when it got to that temperature, and then you got to take into account your hives in the full sun. You know the drill. So that's something you want to play with. But what did we lost him here? Hey, Rhonda.
So when you tell the story about the shingles, I haven't heard.
Okay, Rhonda, go on Bob Binney's website, and he has a video on there. It's within the last, I think, 10 months. I think it's called Epitherapy. And he had the shingles so bad they were on his chest, they were going up in his neck, and some had gotten up in the face. And he'd been, he had his assistant sting him once before with like 6 bees right into the areas. And the second time that he did it, he was in such pain, he was having trouble breathing. And you guys know what I'm talking about when you're in that much pain. He came back on an hour later, and like 90% of the pain was gone. And after a period of time, I don't know how long, the shingles just went away. There are 2 things going on with the stings. One of them is that there are some weird anti-inflammatories in the stings themselves, but also the venom causes your body to also produce a bunch of anti-inflammatories that coat the nerves.
Your corticosteroids, whatever they call them.
Don't go there. I can't remember. That's a good point, though, Bob. But apparently, the sheathing around the nerves, like when you have shingles, I guess your nerves get really irritated. And
shingles follow the nerve paths in your skin.
Thank you. So, yeah, I've never had them. And unfortunately, I had a great aunt that had them really bad. And if I'd known that, I would have dragged her over here and put her on that hot hive of mine. But it was amazing to see the transformation within 60 minutes of not being able to breathe. You're in so much pain to, hey, it's like pretty much gone. So that was that, Rhonda. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So I don't know, it gets kind of frightening when you think about some of the stuff that's going on. And that might be also one of the reasons, I don't know if you guys know any commercial beekeepers that have been hospitalized with the Chinese flu. We tracked down 3 in Wuhan during SARS, and they had direct exposure, and none of them ended up there. Jennifer, I'm a nurse practitioner. There's a bunch of literature. It's been around for thousands of years. So, Jennifer, they were actually, if you look at some of the old hieroglyphs in Egypt, the royalty would get circumcised. And there's literally hieroglyphs of these guys, somebody on their knees putting honey on this guy's wiener after they circumcised it. They knew it was an antibiotic then. So they used them. I had somebody, one other thing here about that. I had a gal show up last summer. She had stop in and pick up some of my honey. And she had a horsefly bite that was about the size of a pencil eraser. And I take all this stuff with a grain of salt until I see it in action. And I hate saying that, but she came back the next day and 90% of that was shut. And I'm like, this is not real. It was a shallow wound, but it was the size of a pencil eraser. It was gone. Body releases hits the moisture in your body, hits the honey. The honey takes I forget what causes it to, anyways, it releases peroxide as soon as it gets your body moisture. Fantastic antibiotic, surface antibiotic. I use it on my cats for crying out loud when they get cut.
I had a lady buy some buckwheat honey I had for her horses there when she has a horse rescue. And the horses that come there, she said sometimes have wounds and stuff on them. And she puts that right on it to treat her horses. So
Yeah,
Well,
makes
see,
sense.
that's what's the honey out of Australia called?
Manuka.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Manuka honey, and what that really is the Manuka plant basically has a oil. It basically is like tea tree oil, which is an antibacterial, and that's what's in actually the honey is that Manuka oil or tea tree oil, which kills bacteria. And now,
I've seen that in petri dishes, Charlie, in comparison to other ones.
Mhm.
And I think it's got about, I'm really off the cuff here. It's either twice as much or a third as much antibacterial properties. It's to see that in that petri dish. So I'd never heard about the oil. So thanks for telling us that.
yeah, that's what it is. And there's another bee club I'm with, and there's a New Zealander there
Yeah.
that he's commercial hunting here in Pennsylvania, but he goes back to New Zealand when he overset since COVID though. But they actually, I think they fly them beehives up into the mountains, so they can grab that certain trees because they grade it by how much tea tree percentage it is.
No kidding.
And oh yeah, it's like I forget how much a barrel that stuff is.
Oh, it's
I wouldn't want to. Yeah.
It's like $30 for 8 ounces or something like that.
It's like $10,000 or $15,000 for a barrel of that,
Yeah.
depending on the grade of the percentage of that honey.
Now, when you start looking at buckwheat honey too, I've seen some reports on Google. You know how great they are. So that say that buckwheat honey is showing that it has better traits than even the Manuka honey does, which
That would be really curious. Do you plant your own buckwheat?
no, that was actually some buckwheat honey. When I sold my honey here, my personal honey, it sold in 24 hours, everything I had. And I still had people trying to get honey from me. So a buddy of mine contacted me and says, hey, I've got a 5-gallon pail of buckwheat honey since you got people that want. And, I picked it up from him for $100 and sold for 600. So
for our stuff.
I mean, I got to pay for my extractor, y'all. So
exactly.
Come on,
Yeah,
as wholesale versus retail.
Your Bitcoins paid for that, didn't it?
Yeah, after the fact, that was the most amazing. I cashed it out, and that same coin went down from 20 cents a coin down to 10 cents a coin this morning. So I would have lost that money back.
I don't know what is that stuff anyway? What do you do with it?
It's just digital assets, digital currency that people buy with real money, and it's kind of untrackable. So I could send it to you, Charlie, to your wallet or anywhere in the world and pay for something. And there's a company in the States called Coinbase, so I can cash it directly out to my bank. I literally cashed out in the morning, and 4 hours later, the $8,000 was in my bank account. So,
well, you lucked out there.
Yeah, I've made, well, I'm not tooting my own horn, but over the years, I've made quite a bit of money in cryptocurrency. So,
hey, run with it. That's just a grand thing. But buckwheat, Bob, Lee, Charlie, my dad had buckwheat honey in the house when I was growing up, and to this day, buckwheat, and I also have clover. To this day, they're still my two favorite. But buckwheat to me is like the red wine of honey.
Here, let me.
Some people don't like it because they say it's too strong.
I always consider it the mud of honey.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's like mud.
I do. I get that, and I think once they bring it in, you can tell you got buckwheat coming in because Bob.
It's really dark.
I want a honey and one of your cigarettes. So just put your neck up to the camera.
So to give you an example, this was my honey.
That's the kind of honey I like.
How light it was. And then the very next week,
I'll be back.
This was in my jars.
See, that's a
it
little
looks
bit
like used motor oil.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I'm sorry. I put that on pancakes. Just I just
not like buckwheat pancakes.
Oh yes, I have buckwheat flour in my pantry. I'm gonna grab one of my honeys here today.
No, that's why some people don't like the goldenrod honey. They say it just got a bad smell and a strong taste.
I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of this. My wife loves it. Everybody that I've sold it has asked me, do I have any more of it? Which I don't. But it is
You can get it around here if they got it planted and stuff.
it's
I
quite
like the
pungent.
stronger taste myself.
Yeah, it's quite strong smell. Very, very dark. Like
It's almost like a molasses type smell.
Yep,
and
and that's what they
texture.
say. It does taste something like molasses.
I know.
Right.
There's my honey. I don't know if I can get the.
Yeah, yours is like mine.
Yeah, there you go, Charlie. That's pretty close. That's pretty close to mine here.
Now,
Really,
now
really
my
close.
spring honey will look like Bob's. Is really, really light color.
Oh, that was my fall honey. My
Yeah.
spring honey's almost clear.
Mhm.
Is it really?
Yep.
That's like our privet honey would be almost clear, but once it gets a little bit of tallow in it, it gets a little real light amber color to it.
So
Yeah,
Charlie,
there's-
that's a lot closer to my honey, but my bees, they forage primarily in this wildlife refuge that's on one side of me. And then I've got a bog and marsh and everything else around here. And so I'm not getting any of the light honey that you guys have.
So this is more of a traditional colored honey, right?
Yeah, mine, yeah.
So then you put buckwheat next to it.
I love it. Oh, man.
And, I mean, there's a definite, distinct difference, right?
Yeah.
My wife made cornbread tonight with the buckwheat. honey.
Oh, just stop there. And Lee, I really like those labels.
Thank you.
I do. They look really nice.
I design on my cell phone, Photoshop, but I have Better Bee print them for me.
Yeah.
And that fire back there looks good right now. Even though it's warm down here, I still like having a fire.
Oh, you got my fire in the background? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start putting fires in my fireplace every year just to make sure there's no bees in my fireplace.
Smoke them out, huh?
Yeah, smoke them out. Because I mean, if you think about it, when it's 78 degrees on New Year's Eve, there's not much need for a fireplace, but we've got one with the cast iron insert and all
Hey,
that
they're nice. They're fun.
nice stuff.
That's what I said. Even though it's warm here, I still just like seeing and the smell of the fire.
See, what I'll do is I'll go outside and we constantly have tree limbs and logs, and I'll just make a little bonfire and sit out there with a nice cold adult beverage and
That's a wonderful thing.
a
Some
cigarette.
of that sweet tea.
Yeah, some of that sweet tea that Brian was drinking on the broadcast the other night. That is 190 proof sweet tea.
It's funny you guys should mention that because so I've got a couple dead outs here, and I'm going to extract probably maybe about 80 pounds out of them just to free the frames up. And I thought, I'd be a damn fool not to run that through the still.
Right.
Be about the most expensive moonshine you'll ever have on the planet, but why not, right?
Well,
That's
never
what my
had
buddy down here is going to do. He's going to run some honey flavored moonshine. He's making mead too.
Oh man.
Well, see, Mike, that's what I did this last year. After that first devastating year that the hive beetle just basically wiped me out, I went from 15 down to 4. And I mean, from 15 colonies reduced down to 4 nukes. I mean, that's how bad it was. And with that being said, the second year I was like, I'm going to take these as strong as I can into winter, and I'm not pulling hardly any honey off of them.
Okay.
So I let that honey sit in there until when was it, Lee? January, February, January.
I think
And then it was starting to warm
mid-late.
up, and they didn't need all the extra honey in there. And I was preparing for the space for spring, so I pulled it and extracted it then. And then I was the only game in town, the only person that had honey. So I mean, it sold like that. I had no competition.
Yeah. You're getting into kind of a weird thing here because I don't know how it works out for you guys, but here I have to heavy feed the bees. And so the dead out is, it's like probably somewhere between 40 and 80% funny honey. And if I go to sell that, I tell the people up front, and then they'll use it for baking or whatever. But what is going on here? What's Cajun? I hope he's not on this live feed. I don't know what that is.
Who?
Oh my gosh, it was 92 electric. Okay, I see I'm way behind everybody else here. So that's just it. And by the way, so I've got the 20 frame version of yours, Bob, the extractor,
Right.
and I have a for me to run deeps in that doggone thing, I have to take the top lids off. I can put them in sideways, but I have to take the top, the plastic folding lids off to fit the deep frames in there, so they'll fit in there tangential.
Really?
30 frame one, so yours has probably got just enough room to slip the deeps in there.
Before I bought it, there was one person that I saw that had the that did a review of it online. And I watched that, and he said, other than his very oldest frames, he was able to get 30 deep frames in it, but he had to kind of manipulate it a little bit. He said medium shallows, no problem. Deeps, he said some of his old frames had a flare at the bottom, and those he couldn't get 30 in, but regular Man Lake frames, he said no problem. He was able to get 30 in.
Well, that's a grand thing. So Charlie, what do you do for extracting?
I have a Man Lake 18 frame extractor.
Well, that'll do.
Hey, Charlie, not for nothing, Better Bee's got your bottling tank in stock. If you wanted to cancel your order with Man Lake and then order it from Better Bee.
Is it a
It's the same one that Lee's got behind him. The one that you were
I've got
Max
16 gallon.
$1,400 or something.
really a 16 gallon?
I
wonder if they got a 25.
Let me see. I always got Better Bee up here. Let me see if I can find it. I've been looking at the license, and I asked them some questions, and they were supposed to get back to me, and then they said they were going to send me an email with the information, but I haven't gotten the.
So you say Better Bee's got a Max An up there?
They do.
Well, here's the problem with Better Bee, though, is that if you get it and you order it, you have to ride there. Well, Bob, you found this out. You don't know. Their shipping department will, I guarantee you, they'll have something up.
Well, once it got on the truck, it was held up in Pennsylvania in Harrisburg for like a week. And then I called up the shipping company and kind of fussed at them. I said, look, I paid $500 shipping on this order. It'd be nice if I had it here instead of in your truck over there.
Yeah. See, they were supposed to, Better Bee was supposed to ship it to a terminal up by me, and it said they shipped it down to a terminal south of the Twin Cities. And then even before that, the shipping guys just sat on my order, and they got a hold of me like 2 weeks after I made the order and said, hey, sorry, we lost your order, and then we're doing it. So, and I've heard that from a bunch of people, but I love dealing with the people at Better Bee. I really do. There's some nice folk there.
Pretty much everything I get's from Better Bee.
So
I love that place.
And how far is Rossman's from you, Lee?
Say that again.
How far is Rossman Apiary Supply?
That one I don't know.
They're down in Georgia.
Oh, that'd be over by Bob. I'm down in South Louisiana.
Okay.
Max, they got the 16 gallon Max Ant for $1,450. The one I was looking at is,
I think you were looking at the license.
I was looking at the license, but the problem with license is either you have to get the 230 volt variety or a small one. So
really?
The heated 18 gallon license tank is $879 before shipping, and it's at 230 volts. So I'd have to get 230 wired into my honey house. And
single phase, yeah.
And then only, I think that they have a 13 gallon that is on the 110 or 120, whatever.
Have you guys ever seen these silicone band barrel heaters that they use for warming up like motor oil and whatnot?
Yeah, I've seen those, and I've seen, I think, who's it, Max Ant, or not Max Ant, but I think Man Lake sells those things too.
Those honey blankets, you mean? Or
they've got a metal band that wraps around a 55 gallon drum.
Well, that's a metal band, but they actually make it's like a silicone blanket, as Charlie might describe. And they're oftentimes like orange or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Mhm.
And I have no idea. I've never dealt with anybody that's used them. So I know those doggone band heaters. How much do those band heaters go for from Man Lake? Is it about $1.50 a piece?
Oh,
Now, what are you going to put it around? You ain't put it around
55 gallon drum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know one guy that had one of them band heaters and he put it across a plastic bucket. And he
did what?
put it on a plastic bucket. I think it might have been designed, but for that, and a temperature gauge and everything, he come a hair of melting that sucker.
Oh.
so the 55-gallon barrel blanket heater at Better Bee is $959.
Now, is that silicone?
It's black. Let me see what it's made out of.
How much is it?
$959.
It's just not a metal band around. It's actually a blanket.
Thermostat set point up to 145. Fits most 55-gallon drums, plastic or steel. Materials are high-grade vinyl.
Interesting.
It's 120 volts.
This right here, I just found at Man Lake, and they run from 184 to 234.
Yeah, those are the band drum heaters there. Yeah, so there is a silicone blanket that actually fills around the whole thing, and they sell specifically to warm up like motor oil and whatnot. And they go for about half of what the band heaters cost. My friend just uses the solid band ones, and come to think of it, he paid closer to $300 for one of those band heaters. Now that was a couple of years ago, so I don't know.
The apiary up the road from me, they built a plywood box. It's probably 6 foot by 6 foot by 5 foot tall. And it's got a little metal rack in there that'll hold a 55-gallon drum on it, and they just got some warping lights in there, and it warms the whole drum up, and they pump it out there through a wall into their bottling area.
So I've thought about getting unheated one because it doesn't get terribly cold here.
Yeah.
And I haven't had masses of honey to deal with.
Yeah.
Right.
You're talking about a bottling bucket. You wanted a heated bottling bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to crystallize.
Yeah.
And when you get that honey up to about 95 degrees, it pours so nicely.
Oh, big difference.
With that room temperature, it's going to take you 2 minutes to fill one jar. If you warm it up, it takes about 3 seconds.
Yeah, that's just make a major difference. So when I go to extract my frames, I stack them up in my laundry room, and I've got a dehumidifier in there. Close it off. There's a fan going down there. I try to get the moisture down to, like 16%, and it does make a taste difference. But as soon as those things are out there, they go right into my little honey house, and we have a heater going on there. And so when we're extracting honey, we keep it 90 degrees in that little room, in the little honey house. And boy, does that make a difference, even spinning the honey out, but I can do that because of the limited size.
Right.
Like if I'm going to be bottling honey for the weekend for the farmer's market, I usually bottle all my stuff up Friday. Usually either the Sunday or the Monday before, I'll put 1 or 2 5-gallon buckets of honey in my bottling tank and turn it up to between 85 and 90.
There you go.
Now, Friday, a couple hours before I actually bottle, I'll turn it up to about 95. And it decrystallizes everything, and it makes it flow so much better.
Yeah. It's just a grand thing, a great way to do it there, right?
How much honey do you make, Mike?
So we had massive losses, and so we're under 500 pounds.
How many hives do you usually run?
About 15.
Okay.
That's not including the nukes, but those are builder boxes. So, have you heard of wax dipping in a barrel band heater? Something, Guy?
I heard that today.
Yeah.
I watched a video where they were talking about
just discussing it. Yeah. I have mixed feelings about the doggone wax dipping because I'm actually insulating my hives. You guys are going to be the first ones to ever hear about this. I'm actually insulating my hives with paint. And if I wax dip them, then it doesn't work. or you have to paint them immediately after the, so the wax doesn't set up perfectly.
Well,
It's just my problem with it. But and how long? It depends on how much humidity you have too. You guys are all dealing with
you're talking about wax dipping boxes, right?
yeah.
All right. What they don't really tell you is that like that paraffin or whatever you want to call it that they buy, you have to buy 2 different products there, I think.
Yeah.
And it ain't cheap. That stuff, you're going to drop $500 in the product.
Yeah.
Put into that tank and heat it up. And then you got your propane on top of all that. And you got hours worth of cooking there to get all that up to speed. Now, there was something a friend of mine just showed me, and I'm going to say it was on the guy down in Tennessee. He puts out a few videos. There's some product you can buy at Home Depot. It's a liquid.
Eco wood.
Huh?
Eco wood.
Eco?
That's what I
Eco
use.
wood.
I think that's it, where you just paint it, you just kind of dip it on there, let it dry, and you're done.
You can take like a plastic tote and mix it up in it and just dip your box in there and rotate it around. And
I got a whole video on that.
Yeah, Bob's
So I
already
may
did it.
never paint my boxes again if this works.
I got a package of it. I just hadn't done it yet.
Did it work, Bob?
I just did it this year. They've been sitting outside for about 2 months in the weather. They've darkened up really well. However, I am noticing that, and it's probably more of my construction than the eco wood, that where the frame rest is, some of the little thin pieces of wood where the frame rest is cut out is starting to bow out a little bit on them. And that's more, I think, of my construction because I didn't really put a staple right there or a nail.
No, that could very well be. I haven't heard that happening with EcoWood. And by the way, I apologize, Three Boy. I can't remember what your first name is there, but I like the idea of wax dipping. I really do. I think that's a great thing to do if you're dealing with
the Pennsylvania club that I have, they have 2 members that have one guy's got a big tank, and another guy, he's the president. He got a tank made, and I forget how many boxes it holds, but they do wax dipping multiple times a year, and as long as it's new boxes and stuff. And I think it really works.
I've never heard anything bad about it, but I would encourage Three Boys to go and take a look at the Bob Binney's method of painting boxes. He takes the oil base. Was it
Zinzir?
No, not the primer, the antifungal,
the
copper sulfate, or that's not what it is. But you got to use oil base. You don't want to use water base because they can leach out with the inside your box gets in. He does that with that, and then lets it sit for, like months, and then he does the good Zinzir, the oil base. Gosh, anybody that's painting their boxes, don't scrimp and not prime your boxes. Mm-hmm. Use a good oil base. Take a brush, pound it into the corners, and then. But Bob uses a thing that's, and this is going to sound contrary. It's latex aluminum enamel.
Yeah, that's
and
what I use.
Sherman-Williams, and he says those boxes will last 40 years. I got no reason not to believe him, but that stuff is also $120 a gallon. And I had another beekeeper who was a painter tell me, no, it said, don't worry about the paint as you use and just make sure the primer is really good. Go into your big box store and try and find some paint that nobody's using before, or return because it's a bad color mix, and use whatever.
Well, see, now I got frothy hot cocoa left over from my honey house.
The Zinzir oil-based primer, it runs about $20 a gallon, and I'll put
that's
2
cheap
coats.
Insurance, and you can thin that out too.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can put a little bit of like paint thinner or whatever in it, thin it down just a bit, and it'll actually help it get into those corners a lot better.
And
I put 2 coats of the Zinzir, and then I put 2 coats of latex enamel over that.
Oh, you did? Well, you got it really good. Yeah. The neat thing about using that oil-based primer too is that does not have to be completely dry free to paint over it, so you don't have to wait like a great deal of time.
Yeah.
And,
Cajun, I don't know why you can't paint over Eco Wood. It still feels just like wood. It just soaks in. It's just minerals that soak into the wood. I mean, it feels totally natural. So I don't know.
Yeah, if you have like a good pro paint shop like a Sherwin-Williams, go in there and talk to them. Don't take our advice for it. We're not painters.
Even Walmart. I don't know if you've looked at the price of paint lately, but
I paid $52 a gallon for my latex enamel final coats.
the stuff I got.
I know a little bit on painting. That's what my dad done, sheetrock and painting for a living.
There you go. So yeah.
You can paint over oil base with latex, but you can't paint over latex with oil base.
Well, thanks for telling us
that. Makes sense.
No.
What I got at Walmart to do the outside of the honey house there, it was $33 a gallon by Glidden, and it was pre-mixed, or pre-colored.
Yeah. Charlie, I hope we're not boring you here with all this painting going on. You're sitting there with all those pretty I mean this sincerely. You're sitting there with all those pretty nukes behind you there, and I'm just getting pissed off because yeah, those look really nice.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have a few medium boxes that are getting a little. I've been at it for 11 years, and I'm thinking, let's see, I've had to replace one bottom board for a 10-frame hive, and
I've had a couple new.
I think I got a couple boxes that are. I mean, there's a lot of beekeepers out there. Well, it's got a corner of it here, maybe like a hole, an extra entrance hole.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. Well, I kind of do. I like my stuff just.
I like to see it. It looks nice.
I want it tight. I want them things tight. I want them to go out one way. And I mean, I realize. I mean, all this kind of stuff is good preventive maintenance, but I don't look for myself to be in the beekeeping for.
No, exactly. Same here.
Another 10 years and I'll be done.
Yeah.
Maybe 20 at the most.
Now, Cajun was asking, does Better Bee do free shipping over a certain amount? And I don't think they do.
No, that's where I get all of my stuff.
Yeah.
Mike, how much honey did you say you pulled off your colonies with 15?
Last year was only a couple hundred pounds. Ideally, it's 500, and this year I'm looking at somewhere between 500 and 1,200. So,
well, yeah, I was just kind of wondering because that's about where my, 12 to 15 is about what I have that are going to be, quote, honey producing strength,
Yeah.
So, just curious.
Well, here's my caveat, gentlemen. Last year we had this, we're in the second year, but last year was really bad. So my friend Troy across the lake, he had a 80% loss of what he would normally get for honey. It was so dry here. So, and you could tell when the rain came, all of a sudden you start seeing the bees coming in heavy. They come in and they do that dead stick, when they're loaded up. Otherwise, no, it was not. Last year was really, really bad. In Northwest Minnesota was the same way too. There's a beekeeper up there that said he was getting 200 pounds of honey per hive. And I'm like, yeah, how much were you feeding them? I got really lucky last year if I got somewhere between, like, this is going to sound really bad, but 35 to 75 pounds of honey per hive. That was it.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good for around here. We might get 40 or 50 pounds.
Well, you guys have quite a shorter season than we have down here as well, don't you?
Yeah, we really do. But when things start flowing up here, and honestly, a lot of it has to do with our forest right next door here too. 35,000 acre, or it's not that much. 17,000 acre. So there's always something blooming underneath.
Like you say, you got a forage area there.
Yeah.
You're more out where that it's like. I got a friend of mine. He's 20 miles away, and he's close to the Susquehanna, and he talks about 500-pound crop in the fall. And I'm like, I don't get anything in the fall, because I'm 20 miles low, because I just don't have. I get the forage April, May, and June, and I'm done.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the only good thing I did last year was I switched over and started using this single hive brood chamber method that. Steve Rapapsky talked about it in my club that I had him talk about. He's the state Pennsylvania state president,
Okay.
and he talked about it. And then I had another club member at another club that I belong to that he uses all mediums like I do, and he told me what to do. And I usually, like you say, 500 pounds of honey out of 10 hives,
Yeah.
and I got just a hair under 1,100 pounds of honey.
Wonderful.
But I have to say, our weather, we didn't have the rain where it washed our honey away, our blooms away. So I'm not sure whether it's. I can definitely say this, that when, the single brood chamber management thing is 2 mediums or 1 deep, queen excluder and then honey supers.
Yeah.
And the size of that cavity, she lays everything up in that cavity. So it manipulates the bees that they must put all the honey upstairs.
Yeah.
And all your honey supers are completely full. I keep under supering, even though they say it doesn't make a difference. I believe it does. And then you go into that brood chamber box every 7 to 10 days, and you equalize it. Pull, if you got 6 frames of cap brood, you're going to pull 3 of them out.
Oh, okay, okay.
Or if you got 4 frames of cap brood, you'll pull 2 of them out. And and basically what you're doing is you're maintaining that bee population at a certain level. Number one, you don't have any swarming problems, and they just keep getting honey. And and it's a lot of work because you're into the hive on a weekly basis, more or less. But the honey production was wonderful. I ran out of drawn wax, and
I've got some of the extracted mediums that I had from last year that I've kind of checkerboarded with foundation, the plastic frames, and they're already storing in some of my supers. Not a lot, but some of them, they're starting to fill up. So
I'm going through
this weekend. I'm going through this weekend to start adding some supers. Yeah. Even the 2 swarms that I caught last weekend, both of them were starting to put a lot of nectar back.
Yeah, I got 8 of my hives already switched over to the single brood chamber with a honey super on. I did that last weekend.
Really?
And I got 2 more hives to work on this weekend if the weather goes well.
Okay.
And I got 1 hive that's queenless, and I put some eggs in there to see whether or not they would make a queen cell.
And guys, I'm going to mess with you on this thing here because you were just talking about checkerboarding. Have you guys ever seen zigzag vertical checkerboarding? Yeah, I'd never heard of that before. So I'm listening to Mike Palmer with Fred Dunn, and he's talking about how he gets his builder boxes to get so strong. And basically what he's doing is he's taking full frames, but every other frame offset is then an empty one. So have you ever seen the channel Duck River Honey?
Yes.
Okay. So who was that fellow that he was interviewing? And I believe it was in Florida. Bob Binney interviewed him too. I'm going to look this up.
He was down there in Tennessee, around Columbia, Tennessee, or someplace.
I think this guy, that's Duck River, but where is this other guy here? Let me find it here. Checkerboarding honey. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, he talked about that, or I've seen him in both videos.
Yeah, Dick Brickner. So it's labor intensive. Here's the problem. It is labor intensive, but he's taking, once he gets a full honey super, he's taking that honey super and he's taking half the frames out and replacing them like every other one with empty ones, but he's shifting them over one. So you don't have like empty frames going up in one stack. They're just one over. And this guy, he gets about twice as much honey as everybody else in his area does.
Yeah, but he talked about that and listen to what his season is. His season's almost the whole entire.
But in comparison to the other beekeepers in his area.
Oh, okay.
I got no reason to think, because Bob Binney thinks the world of this guy. So I don't think he's pulling anybody's legs, but he's literally getting about twice as much honey as everybody else is. The problem with all that is that it's very labor intensive. So you're taking all these doggone honey supers off, and the one that's at the bottom, that's half full or whatever, you're taking that out. You're pulling all the half the frames out, checkerboarding them, and put it back up. And like you were saying, Charlie, then you take the least empty one and you put it down below. And I would encourage you guys to see that. I'm going to try that this year just because out of weird coincidence, that's what Mike Palmer does to get his queens to build up in his builder boxes. So apparently there's some kind of weird thing. Instead of stacking them like that, just have one off. For some reason, the bees have a pathway that they come up with. I don't understand it. I've never had anybody explain it to me. Mike Palmer didn't, and that Dick Brickner didn't when he was talking to Nathan at Duck River. But it's kind of fascinating. I was thinking about you guys. You're trying to get your honey business going there. I'm definitely going to give it a try just because, if you only got like 15 hives, yeah, it is very labor intensive, but, my flow doesn't come on like a gangbuster, so I can go in between there. Houston, that guy is getting a ton of extra combs. Or Houston, you mean he's got a lot of extra combs?
From them drawing the extra comb up on the empty.
Yeah, if they going through and filling all the honey supers up that much more, he's getting more comb drawn out.
I think he's using all drawn comb.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, that's my problem now is that I do have some drawn comb, but not as much as I'm going to need. So it's basically
you're just gonna have to put 10 frames in there and
let them start drawing.
And then I'll say checkerboard them if you can checkerboard them, and just keep letting them build that build up your comb.
So yeah, I went through last week and added a empty super on most all the colonies have empty super on them. And my thought was, well, if the flow starts here soon, they'll want to start drawing comb. So I tried to give them a little bit of a head start, to see. And we'll see what happens.
Mike, what did you think of Nathan's hive lifter? That's the same one that, let's see, Cayman's got one, and
Mike Berry.
The only thing I didn't like about it is that I want power wheels on the doggone thing.
Yeah, that would be
I
nice.
don't want to keep that load around.
It probably wouldn't take much to have that put in.
Yeah, if you look that up, there's units over in Europe that have that.
See, that just makes more sense, doesn't it, Charlie? I mean, I like the concept.
The only thing that I'm kind of, it looks to me like it's top heavy, that it wants to sit there and.
Thank you.
I
was worried about that. I'm like, wait a minute.
I think you'd have to have pretty level ground.
So, Bob, back to your undrawn combs here real quick. One thing you can do in the fall after the flow's over, take all your empty, like honey supers, undrawn comb, not all of them, but stack them up on top of your hives and feed the ever-loving shit out of them.
Yep. That's what I told him. That's what I'm going to be doing this year.
Are you, Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that for the first time last year, which I'm really embarrassed. After 8 years, I finally figured that one out. But just feed the crap out of the doggone things, and you will get funny honey in that because they will build up as they're growing up. Now, the good news is you can turn around and extract that in the spring or whenever, and then use that syrup honey to make pollen patties out of. Yeah, and then they never get stiff on you.
That's what Cayman pretty much does. As soon as the flow is over, he puts the super on.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
and throws the 1-to-1 tool.
Yeah.
Well, next year, I guess you could actually open feed them that too.
You could. It depends on how warm and cold it is. I've gotten the top feeders, the trough feeders that Man Lake sells.
Right.
And I use those. I put those on the end of the year if I'm trying to draw comb. So you can get so many more bees getting up there and getting liquid than you can, with any bucket that you ever put on there. Here's a funny one for you, though. The problem with it. Charlie, ever used any of those top trough feeders?
That's what I use. I use the 4-gallon Man Lakes.
There you go. So you get them building bird comb up in between the two?
Yeah. It's lattice comb is what it is.
Yeah, but here's a way you can eliminate that. Get ready for this. You just drill a couple holes on either side and you put some screen in there or even clear tape. And the light gets in there and they won't build bird comb where there's light. And that's how I got rid of all that doggone stuff because I hated them because of that. They build all that bridge comb, bird comb, whatever.
I got a couple of the Saracel feeders. I hate them damn things.
They're expensive.
Are they? What do they go for?
Saracels are expensive, I think.
Well, when I bought them 2 years ago, they were $30 a piece. So they're more than that now, I'm sure. And
I have the used sugar frames in the spring for splits. Houston, absolutely. Absolutely. Use that sugar stuff. And again, you've got the sugar syrup in there, so it has a higher percentage of peroxide in there. So it's even healthier for your splits.
Yeah. This is what I do for the cone building also. A little bit less than 1-to-1.
You're going that thin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They seem to
actually-
build the cone faster with that.
I got to try that. Thank you, Lee.
All right, now
Well-
Lee. I mean, I'm not much on math. I mean, I kind of like. Okay, 1-to-1 for me is for every 10 pounds of sugar, it's 5 quarts of water.
Well, if you look at it, 1 pound of sugar, 1 pound of water would be
I actually, I'll
technical
simplify it.
1-to-1. So
20
you look at
pounds of sugar,
3/4
3
of a
gallons
pound.
of water.
Yeah. 3/4
Yeah, I'll
of a
even
pound of sugar
simplify
to
it
1
for
gallon
a
of
little
water.
bit more for you, Charlie. It's sugar and water have got the same weight per volume. So just, fill up a big, whatever container it is, level with the sugar, and then put it in there and the same amount of water. You have the same weight that way.
Yeah.
So
So instead of
I'll tell you what I was doing is I was taking 25-pound bag of Walmart sugar, putting it in the 5-gallon pail, filling it up,
yeah.
mixing it up, right? So it's thick. Then I was splitting that in half in 2 buckets and filling it up at like 75% full on the buckets.
Hey, if that works for you, go for it.
So
I like that.
So a gallon of water, and you say 75% sugar water.
20 pounds of sugar, 3 gallons of water. So it's 24 pounds of water to 20 pounds of sugar.
So if you were to take like 4 of the big, Pyrex measuring cups, figure that in water, and then only use 3 of them for sugar. And that'll give you the.
I just, when I'm doing sugar water like 2-to-1, I mean, I like to cook it. So I got a 55-gallon honey drum with a heater,
nice.
a mixer, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I mathematically calculated it out. So when I'm doing 2-to-1 for the fall, it's 20 gallons of water and it's 250 pounds of sugar.
Hey, that works for you.
And it's a little less than 2-to-1 because it should be like 275 or something like that.
Okay.
And then if it's and that'll create 40 gallons of sugar water.
Man,
And that's what I have, a 40-gallon pump tank, and I go around and I pump it off.
Well, 20 gallons of water is 160 pounds.
Good night, Jennifer.
And you're putting 250. So it's a little bit less than 2-to-1, but
Yeah. Wow.
It is. It's a hair bit less. I mean, I've calculated out with a 10-pound bag. It's 5 quarts of water to 10 pounds gives you 1-to-1, and a 2.5 quarts is for 10 pounds is 2-to-1, which normally I calculate instead of doing that half pound, I just say 3 quarts.
you guys are way too scientific.
I like it.
Yeah. Hey, Tex, you're absolutely right. If you got the shop scale, go for it.
I don't scale it. I just calculate it out. It's just like when I fill that drum with water, some people say, well, I found it was on the YouTube is what it was. The guy had it. You can go to Home Depot and buy yourself a water meter that hooks on the end of screws on the end of your garden hose. And it's
Nicely.
And it's digital, and you just sit there and watch the thing count off, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
And drop it in, and it's 20 gallon. I'm done. And then I just like it's sort of a routine system type of thing.
Right.
Staying consistent is an important thing, especially when we're in timing and everything else. So hats off to you.
I just dump the bag in and shoot it with water on, just blast it with the jet and mix it up that way. And
yeah.
I
see
do
what Houston was saying up here, like the
stir it
3/4 to 1. They say it's closer to what a flow would be instead of it being stronger sugar.
Yeah, low. So then we're getting the cone build up and everything else. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Appreciate you.
And I ain't taking credit for that. I got that from Bob Benny. That's what he was doing on some.
Yeah, his feeding sequence. I try to remember who the heck this was. There was I can't remember what the name of the beekeeper was. Let's see if I can find it here. But Bob did a Zoom meeting with him last year, and I think there was maybe about 40 people, 50, 60 people on there. And
I know they done one back in February. It was Little Bits Honeybees. Joe.
Thank you. And
Joe May.
Yeah,
the
because
people call in.
I was on there with them.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's grand. I'll have to go back and watch that again. It's
I believe that was February something.
But Lee, the number of people that called in or that were on there, they weren't certain what mix of honey syrup to use. And Bob was shocked that they didn't know it. You can see the confusion on his face. And, so we had somebody that just came up on the previous conversation, not this one, but they were asking, should I be feeding my bees 2-to-1 right now? And I'm like, wait a minute, and, where'd you get that from? The Fat Bee Man or the Vino guy or, whatever. No, and I told him, no, you want to do the 1-to-1. And
well, I think Michael Palmer, he always said it. He just does 2-to-1 all the time.
I seem to remember something about that. Yeah.
He's talked about the amount of moisture in the hive and all that kind of stuff. But now, like, as far as like my hives, I don't feed any sugar water in the springtime.
Oh, you don't? Not for buildup?
No, I just give them a little bit of pollen. Now we're at the point now where we get pollen coming in. I mean, I'm watching Brian and all them guys. Oh, we're putting pollen on them. Like, why? You got pollen coming in. They don't want fake pollen. They like the real stuff.
And once the pollen starts coming in heavy, yeah. But if you're going to have like umpteen days of like, at the beginning, when you have like maybe about 4 days of cold, rainy weather, yeah, it's good to have them.
That's true.
Right?
Right. I mean, if I got maple coming in, as soon as the maple trees hit and it's fairly decent flying weather, they turn their noses up to pollen patties. And so I put a quarter strip in my nukes, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and I went through them watching their feed and stuff. And some of them have dried up, some of them they ate fair amount. But I will have to say this here. What's that new stuff out? Brian, them guys are pushing.
Oh yeah,
Hive Alive.
Yeah. I've got a code. I've got a 10% off code if you want to use it.
Well, I don't need it now. I mean, it looks like to me that the pollen patties seem to be they like them.
I think they put 10% of real pollen in there too, and what that is, I don't know. But the other thing is that they also put thymol in that and their fondant, and thymol is a good gut cleanser. They've been using it for a year, for I don't know how long.
Well, whoever up in Canada is making it for him, Winter Patty, is making it.
It's the Global Patty.
Global Patty. That's who's making this stuff for him.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, that video you was talking about with Bob Benny that I was saying I was on with him, Little Bits. That's Little Bits Honeybees, and that was on February the 3rd.
Okay, I got to go back and look at that again.
Yeah, I heard that. I kind of missed that, and I heard that really there wasn't any interaction with Bob that much.
There really was.
They had a couple of questions to him.
Yeah, the towards the end or whatever. But what's interesting was that the people that were asking the questions, they really didn't know. And so it was a good primer for the rest of us that, after a period of time that you should know, but you might not. It's like the 3/4 to 1. I totally forgot about that, Lee. Completely forgot about it. What do you want? Come here. Come on. Do you want to go out? I've got a couple of mouses here. I actually don't use mouse guards on my hives. I literally don't. They're just, yeah. Okay. Going on. Okay.
I haven't had any problem with mice over here as far as colonies.
Good.
Rats,
really?
I haven't had any rat problems on my hive, but I told Lee this morning, I went out in the yard. It was actually a 5-gallon feeder that I had to hold.
Oh, no.
And it was full of water, and I had a rat that just drowned in it.
Oh, okay.
It just flowed down. I thought it was a squirrel. That's how big it was.
Oh man!
And
I've got enough owls here and whatnot and eagles and.
Well, we got hawks and everything, and I got chickens running around the yard and ducks. I thought they were gonna.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's like we have a peregrine nest that's just across the street here, and all my songbirds are gone. They just said no, screw it. We're moving up 10 blocks away, but they're not hitting the stuff on the ground. So I guess it depends on what kind of birds you got. This guy right here that was just up my lap, he was a rescue. And I went out in the back deck last winter, and we had so many owls out there, and that walked out there at night, and he went to ground. And he's been cut up. You know, he's missing part of his ear and whatnot. So the owls went after him. But as far as you finding a rat out there, well,
Yeah.
at least the good news is they won't fit in the hive.
Well, we never had any problems with them, and then back last fall, probably a half a mile away, they clear cut the woods to build a subdivision.
Okay.
And I think they all just came out of the woods. I mean, usually I'll see black snakes and stuff in the yard that usually kill those things, but I haven't seen any this year, any black snakes or anything. So
Lee, Charlie, what do you guys got for varmints there?
Varmints? I don't know. We have some rats. I mean, you know, like they'll be in the hay barn. Mice will get in the house. Okay, you know, that's always a problem in the wintertime.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's about it. I mean, we always here at the farm when Dad was alive, we always used to have a half a dozen or a dozen cats.
Yeah, they were.
You get cats around, they got that smell, I guess, and all those other rodents, they take a hike, stay away.
Well, I thought for sure, you know, we've got armadillo down here. We've got
what do they do? I mean,
they're like heavily armored possums.
They dig your yard up.
They dig your yard. Is that what they do?
We got possums, raccoons, armadillos, coyotes, but I haven't had any issues with any critters getting into the beehives.
No, I haven't either.
Raccoons
we really don't have a mouse problem here, but we do get the barn rats every now and then out by the hay and stuff like that.
Right.
No, you guys don't have terriers, do you?
What's that?
Terrier dogs, the little ratters.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, the fox hunting dogs.
I got a big blue pit in the yard, and then we got a little long-haired Dotson inside.
Hey, well, I'll tell you what. Rats don't care about no dogs, because I had 3 Siberian Huskies in my porch, the screen porch, and you guys saw how raggedy it was and everything. Well, it had
on the house shell.
It had years and years of boxes that had been, you know, my sisters would leave something on the porch and we'll come back and get it, and they would never get it. And when I was cleaning that out, every box I picked up had 5 or 6 rats, not mice, come climbing out of them. They couldn't get in the house because it was all brick.
Yeah.
But they were in that porch in those boxes. And they were just jumping out everywhere. I screamed like a little girl.
We don't have any skunks here, but do any of you guys have coy dogs there?
Mm-mm.
We had so many coyotes here about
we got
when they went
coyotes.
in heat that I mean, I was outside on a regular basis at night with my pistol. You know, they were on, you know, between me and the lake, you know, and me and the next street over. I couldn't believe it. There were so many out there, and it's just are
you out? Sound like to me you're out in quite a rural area.
We are, but we're also kind of an isolated thing. We're in the last stand of old growth white pine in this part of the state. So we're surrounded by a lake, a bog, a marsh, and a wildlife refuge. So we're isolated too, though, Charlie. So that gets kind of out there. But
a bog is when you say a bog, swamp.
A bog is a covered lake. It's actually a lake, and I know it's a lake, by the way, because I was cutting across the bog at I think in January, maybe about 6 years ago, after having a few too many at the bar, fell through in January. You know, so like, okay, yeah, there's definitely a lake underneath this damn thing. You know, like, oh, God dang it.
We get a pack of coyotes that have come through every couple of months, and you can hear them, but I've never seen them in the yard.
They're around here some, but I've not seen them. I've seen pictures where they shot them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but we're so. Yeah, I'm in the country, but the darn cities have come around me.
they're encompassing, aren't they? Yeah.
I got 50 acres here, and
Well,
The
God
problem
bless
is it's a generational thing. The kids aren't wanting to farm the land their parents were farmers on.
Yeah,
And when they
well,
pass on, then they sell it. And these developers are buying it. And
Bigfoot doesn't bother my hives.
I,
Oh,
well, I mean, even I haven't lost a chicken
good.
or anything. I've lost 2 ducks that there was no feathers, no blood. They were just gone.
Really?
They might have been alien abducted, or
nah,
Bigfoot might have
more
grabbed
like
them.
Bigfoot to me.
I've had a couple of possums
Uh,
get in my chicken coop, but they don't mess with the chickens. They just want the eggs. I'll go
Okay.
out there every now and then at night, and they'll have one sitting up in a roosting box, sitting there eating on an egg.
What is it?
Possums.
Awesome.
Okay. I guess the biggest thing around here, I won't say it's a menace, but we got a lot of foxes here lately.
Yeah, we got
yeah,
foxes
foxes
here as
in
well.
Gaithersburg too, Charlie. My cousin, they set up a sniper range from the second floor.
Yeah.
They were and they just had they've got a couple of German short hairs, and about a month ago they had a coyote attack one of them.
Hmm.
So they're like, no, we don't think so. Let's get the 223 out here, and they ordered a what is it, 8th generation night scope. You can call them in with the wounded rabbit call and and stuff like that, but they'll figure that out pretty quick. So you use a subsonic 22 short and do a precision shot and drop them, then they don't hear it. Keep calling them in and kind of. I'm sorry. I just hate these things. The raccoons I can handle. Okay, there's a reason they call it Coon Lake. I had a sow on my back deck here that had 17 kits with her. Now, obviously, she adopted from somebody else, but it was interesting to see how that number diminished as it went, as the spring went on. So there's other stuff eating that, but I just don't abide by these predators around here. I will do anything. I mean, I've raised an owl for the Raptor Center in my backyard. They dropped it off. Hey, can you raise this? Yeah, okay. But no, coyotes, and I've only had one wolf show up in my backyard that I knew of. But I'm sorry. That's just
What's I mean, wolf's about as well. They're bigger than a dog, aren't they?
Yes and no. It depends upon the wolf, but you can really tell the difference because their feet are just massive. The timber wolf, it's the pads to walk on the snow. Yeah, and they're silent.
Yeah, I had a Canadian timber wolf at one time where I used to live at. I had a female Canadian timber wolf, and I had a male Siberian husky.
How'd that go?
Good. That was the biggest baby we ever owned.
Oh, wonderful.
One strike of lightning, and she was laying in your lap like she was a chihuahua.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. If the kids were on the trampoline, she'd lay under the trampoline, wait on them. If they come inside one upstairs, she was laying at the foot of the bed.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, we've got the science center next door that Peggy, I forget what her name is right now. She runs it, and there's usually somewhere between 35 and 50 wolves there, but they have a lot of rescues. The people that couldn't handle wolves like you did. Mm-hmm. So my hat's really off to you.
They had a guy here that he had a male and a female, and he used to breed them.
Oh.
And we picked one up.
Really?
And technically, they're illegal. They're supposed to be considered a hybrid.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't. We were going to do the hybrid with the female and then my male Siberian. We was going to cross them, but never got the chance.
Oh, wow. I can't believe that. I know that at least the male timber wolves up here, if somebody tries to raise one, you have to establish dominance over that thing. You do. You have to be the alpha dog on that thing. Otherwise, that thing will run it. And that's why you have so many people return their hybrids or surrender them or whatever here. But I'm pretty damn jealously. They're beautiful.
I would like to have another one.
Would you?
Whenever me and my ex split, it went with her.
I got 3 huskies you can come get tomorrow.
What was funny, that Siberian husky we had, we adopted him out of Sugar Land, Texas. And we got him back home here to Louisiana. If you open that front door, you better watch him. I lived at a dead end road. He would run all the way to the main highway, hang a left, and run 3 miles. Same place every time. We'd drive down there and he'd be sitting on the side of the road waiting on us.
I'll tell you what, when I was in Michigan, we had privacy fence. Yeah. I also had the invisible fence around the privacy fence. And they figured out that if they got up a good head of steam running, that they would get clipped, but they were through it.
Yep.
Right. And their fur's so thick that it didn't really bug them that much. And
now that Siberian Husky, like I said, he'd run straight out that door. So I said, okay, I'm going to buy a shock collar and just put it on low. I put that shock collar on him and I opened the door and I was waiting for him to run. He looked at me, looked at the door, looked at me, and he sat down. So undoubtedly, whoever had him before had a shock collar on him and he knew what it was.
And
they're
I called the animal control when they escaped. And I said, hey, if you see a red Siberian Husky and a black and white Siberian Husky running together, they're mine. Give me a call. I'll come pick them up. They were 7 miles away the next morning. And they were outside of an apartment complex, just laying down.
Were they?
Next to a car, and people got spooked, and the apartment complex called in, and then the animal control called me, and I came and got them.
Did they dig cooling pits in your yard?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Texas said he'll swing by and pick those Huskies up for you.
Hey, come and get them, brother. They're in my honey house. I gotta build something for them, or I gotta move them outside now.
Yeah. Well, it's getting late for me. I got to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm going to run here too, gentlemen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we appreciate you stopping in. Come by anytime. You know, it's an open door policy.
I definitely will, and I apologize. I think I've been kind of manipulating the conversation or dominating it, but
we talk about pretty much anything here.
Yeah, but you know, the grandchildren are gone here, and I'm here with my Siamese and the killer. So to talk to some adults is really pretty refreshing, you know. And to look at Charlie's pretty highs back there, I just don't like you anymore. Anyways, well, gentlemen, God bless. You know, and,
okay, same to you.
We'll catch you down the road.
All right, we appreciate you stopping in and finding your camera.
Magellan, leave this one alone. Okay, brothers, talk to you later.
All right, good night.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right, I'm heading out too, guys.
All right, Charlie, we'll see you next time.
All right, so you say Better Bees got that honey?
They got the 16-gallon.
They got the 16-gallon. If you're going for the Maxent, it's $14.50.
They got a 36-gallon heated if you're going for the license. That's cheaper than the 16-gallon.
I don't know. I've been on the fence whether to get the 25 or the 16. The 16 definitely. I mean, you're talking 3 buckets of honey, where the other one would hold more. But
that's
then
180 bottles, right?
Well, I look at it this way. I mean, like Lee there talked about, like, you know, I don't like mixing my honey either. I'm on the on my light honey that I showed you.
Right.
And I had 3 or 4 buckets of the darker honey, which is just more of a poplar or whatever it was. And
I like that.
That's why I went with the 16. I didn't think I was going to do over 180 bottles a week, at least anytime soon. But I plan on getting a second one. That way I got one for the light honey, one for the dark. So you figure it that way, that's 360 bottles at a time.
Right.
I don't plan on going through that much.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Some weeks here I'll do 20 some pounds a week. I'm averaging between 5 and 10 pounds a week, which between 50 and $100 a week.
Right.
And some weeks was over 200, which is not normal. On average, around, you know. And if I can, like you say, I mean, I can keep 3 buckets, maybe. Well, I don't fill my buckets completely. So probably I could actually get 4 buckets, almost 4 buckets in one of them bottling tanks, a small one. And then I can put at least 3 buckets in my hot box to keep it from, you know, just to warm it.
Right.
Know? And then keep it warm, keep it from crystallization and that kind of stuff.
Now, like if, say it's one of the little food grade buckets from Home Depot or something like that, usually they like 60 mil thick on the bottom. I won't fill one of those all the way up.
Well, I got my sister, she's got a snowball stand, so she buys what's that topping? The white stuff.
Oh, the cream?
Marshmallow.
Okay.
These are marshmallow buckets, you know, they're heavy. And they do a good job. and all
Now,
that.
all my honey buckets I get out of Texas. I order them now. I mean, they're going to cost you for 6 buckets and 6 lids. It's like $85, but
Yeah,
they're 92 mil thick on the bottom,
right.
so I don't have
Right.
to worry about them busting when you set them down a little
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. So I'll have to call them up. I'm gonna have to call. I think I'm gonna call, instead of calling North Carolina, I'm to try to get a hold of Rossman. I'm gonna call down to Georgia and say, you got any word, and call up there. It better be. If anything, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get the smaller unit and let it go at that. Be just as good. Won't take as much water. How much water does that sucker hold?
I
30
put
gallons?
5 gallons. I put distilled water in it. You don't want
Yeah,
to put regular
distilled.
tap water. You don't want the
No.
minerals.
It takes 5 gallons to fill that thing?
Yep. It would probably take maybe 5.5, but generally I just put 5. And it has the sight glass on the side so you can see what
Well,
you
that
want
was
to
one of
light.
the things that I went down there to Hive Life, and you had Hilco down there, and they had them knockoffs. And they had, for the sight glass, was a piece of plastic tubing. And then the no drip for the one drip valve was, a piece of plastic junk.
To be honest, as far as the sight glass, I really wouldn't mind the plastic. I mean, as long it's a food grade material, but it's never touching your honey anyway.
No.
But that glass, if you tap it just right, I mean, you're gonna bust it, and then there goes all your water.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, the plastic I think would be better for me. But yeah, I mean, if you just want to look at other buckets, you can look at baytechcontainers.com. They're out of around Pasadena, Galveston area in Texas.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll drop that
It's
link in
Texas
here just in case
Beekeeper
anybody
Charlie.
wants to check.
Something about Texas Beekeeper in the tank.
You see, you crack him up. You said, Charlie, all right, guys, I'm heading out. So, and then you're like, oh, so you say Better Bee has a tank.
We wrangled him back in.
Now I've been waiting over 6 months trying to get something out of Rossman. And it's like, and I got a grant that's going to pay for a few things, it'll pay for that thing.
Right.
And I got to have that grant submitted before, I'll say, by the end of June, and all that stuff.
Sounds like you need to call Better Bee and say, hey, when can you ship this?
They can ship it now. It's in stock.
Yeah.
When they finally filled my order, they packed it up and it left the next day out. So
I just made an order from Better Bee today. I think another 10 cases of jars, the glass ones, and then more labels.
Yeah, we discussed on our board of records meeting last night about going up to up the Gambler there and getting a big load for the club.
Send some this way.
Yeah.
I got a couple of big boxes.
It is now midnight here.
Yeah, it's midnight. It's 12:03 here, so I'm gonna bug out. And you guys getting on anytime down the week? Down the rest of the week?
Lee's off the weekend, so
yep.
Yeah,
probably be seeing us a couple times more this weekend.
Yeah, most likely
I'm
we'll
gonna
be
see
on.
See what this weather's like. I don't know. I'm gonna I got to get into those 2 highs and get them done Saturday. I got to do some filming, and I'd like to get into my nukes, and really, I got about over a dozen of them sold and get them out the door. But I think it's going to be warm, really warm next week. But I'll have to kind of see out.
Did you get a chance to see that premiere I did earlier?
No, I did not. I was between honey and I had some catch up on some of the other meeting things, and
I made 2 splits into that horizontal hive. One of them I didn't find the queen, but she could have been on a mating flight. The other one, big old tiger stripe, dark.
Cool. That was the one you did about a week or so ago.
Yes, sir.
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, with the queen cells.
Yeah.
Yeah, but one of them's come back. She's big, but she ain't laying yet.
Well, it'll take her a week.
Yeah, that's what I figure. I might check Sunday or one day next week, see if I can see any eggs yet. But it's
Yeah.
looking promising.
Oh yeah, sounds good to me.
Right.
So, all right, well, I'm out. I'll see you.
All right, Charlie,
All right,
have a good one.
Yeah.
Well, another good show.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate the 12 people that hung around to the end. We do appreciate you very much. And I'm sure we'll be going live sometime this weekend. It's been pretty regular.
Yeah, check that out, Texas. They're a pretty good one. A good-looking queen.
All right,
yeah,
guys.
everybody in the chats, thank y'all for coming in. And, hey, somebody click on that link next time we in here and come join us and chat.
And we'll see you guys next time. Have a good night.
Have a good one. Good night.